so we'll have that. First of all, I want to thank North Little Rock CVB. They agreed to sponsor our AGM this week and all of our breakout sessions, so that's always great to have their support. Second of all, thank you, Matt, for doing this. I'm thrilled to have someone of your stature here with us in Arkansas. For those who don't know, Matt and I briefly played together at Davidson. He's a couple years younger than I am. You'll notice he was a Final Four player at Davidson. Sadly, I graduated 2 years prior to that. So my claim to fame in that group is that I'm sure I helped recruit some of those kids.
Yeah, exactly.
But
paved the way.
Exactly. I paved the way with all those losing seasons when I was actually on the squad. So, but Matt's a great guy. He also coached at Davidson following Charlie Slagle. And then you may have just heard he was with the Richmond Kickers a couple of years, and now he's got this gig here and has agreed to come on board and talk to all of us about it. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Matt.
Yeah, thanks so much, Jim. If you guys are comfortable putting on your screens, I can see you. I always ask that, but I don't require it, obviously. But it's helpful for me to kind of catch eye contact. Really happy to be asked by Jim. As Jim said, we're former teammates, and I'm thrilled to talk to you guys today. I'm hoping to work with some of you guys moving forward. Wish I was out there in person with you, but I'm here in my house in North Carolina. The first thing I always do when I talk to groups is usually when I'm in person, we do this thing where we do these 2 claps, and everybody kind of comes together around 2 claps. Can't do that over video, obviously, but I will ask you, a stat has been told me that 50% of our day we are unaware, which means we're not in the moment. We're not present. We're not where our feet are. So if we could just take a second and just pause and take one really deep breath. Everybody do it on your own. Thank you. So I represent Soccer Resilience, this dream team that I've been lucky to be joining in on. As you see on the screen there, Brad Miller and I were club teammates together. So it's pretty neat. 30 or 40 years after being club teammates, we're actually doing a project together. He played at Wake Forest, ACC champion. He's been a clinical psychologist. His wife's a psychologist. They have 2 kids. They live in San Diego. And he's kind of the pioneer of this group. I'll skip me and come back to me. Wells Thompson is one of the other 2 original founders, also from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, where Brad and I are from. You can see his stats there: 5th overall draft pick, MLS Cup champion, US Open Cup champion. And what he's most proud of is Humanitarian Player of the Year in the MLS. And then last but not least, on the far right there, Jessica McDonald is our newest partner. We just announced her 2 weeks ago. I'm super stoked about Jessica. Amazing story. If you follow the national team, you probably know a little bit about her. From Phoenix, Arizona, originally, 2-time NCAA champion at UNC. She's only there 2 years, so she won both times. 3-time NWSL champion, including leading scorer a couple seasons, and now World Cup champion as of 2019. Myself, it just says right there, grew up in Winston-Salem, NCAA Final Four player at Davidson. Among other things, before I came back to coach, I did a bunch of marketing projects for Adidas. I was involved in a lot of TV and internet projects for them. Actually managed USU soccer website and the NSCA website, now called United Soccer Coaches. Came back as a full-time coach at Davidson. Had a lot of fun coaching at my alma mater. If you ever get a chance to coach where you played, that's such a thrill to come back home, so to speak. Fortunate, we had 10 wins over ACC teams against the likes of Duke and Carolina, Virginia, and others. But most importantly, all the guys graduated. They stay in touch. They're a close group, and that's really what team sports are all about. All of us in this group have a story about why we started Soccer Resilience and where we come from, and how much resilience has meant to us through our career. And so if I can partake a little bit about both leadership and resilience in this call, I've accomplished everything that I want to get through. I also have, before we start going through the slides, is please speak up, jump in, unmute. I'd love this to be a conversation. You don't need to be prompted. If there's something that you want to point out to the group, or a question or a comment, I'm fully welcoming that. So get us started a little bit. When I talk to leadership groups, and I'm a leadership consultant as well, so I talk to leaders all the time. And I've been really fortunate to be a head coach and be a captain of Final Four team and run a pro soccer team. I forgot to mention that the last 2 years, I ran the Richmond Kickers, a USL League One team in Virginia. Started my own couple companies, and now I'm doing this new venture with some other people I talked about. But I always like to take a step back and think about leadership and who other leaders that are out there in the world that have been really successful. And they're really all very unique. They've done it their own way and their own route. So I'm going to go through 4 or 5 leaders here. If you want to type in anything comes to mind, if you want to speak up, that's totally fine as well. And I deliberately always pick some non-soccer ones to start out with. So just take a second here. We've got a Patriots fan, Rhode Island background a little bit there with Jim. And if anything pops up in the chat, Jim can either read it out if you think it's noteworthy, because I actually can't see the chat with the screen that I'm looking at. But I chose that photo because, as we know, Bill Belichick, a bit of a curmudgeon. He's a lifer. He's been there for dozens of years. He's an X's and O's guy, but he's extremely successful in his own way. He also has some baggage, like all leaders do. We won't mention some of those things. Phil Jackson, again, most successful coach in the NBA, 6 NBA championships with the Bulls, with Jordan, and then 5 more with Kobe. Very different kind of leader. If there's a book, I'll probably mention some books and some quotes along the way. And maybe Jim, you can even write this in for me in the chat. Just write Phil Jackson / Sacred Hoops. If there's a leadership book that I would recommend when I think of Phil Jackson, that's his first book. He's written more since then, but I absolutely love that book because it's about his focus on mindfulness, we over me, and playing free. And he was able to do that with amazing, greatest of all times players and guys like Jordan and Kobe Bryant. So go to soccer here. So another controversial guy, whether you like Chelsea or you liked him at Tottenham or you like him at Man United or Real Madrid or Milan, all these places he's played, he's always been a winner. He's a different kind of coach from the other guys. I put a picture of him at the press conference. That's really when he's really at his greatest. He's a great talker. He's great with head games against the other team and the other players. He tries to take the pressure off his own players and put it on himself. And so all these coaches, these successful leaders, are all very different from each other. Jurgen Klopp, he's kind of the flavor of the month right now. Everybody's really high on Jurgen Klopp, whether you like Dortmund, whether you like Liverpool. He's won titles in the Bundesliga, English Premier League, and obviously the Champions League. The greatest thing about Klopp, you could say, is that smile and that he's a player's coach and he has emotion and he puts his arm around his captain, Jordan Henderson there. He looks up at the crowd. But the other thing I really like about Jurgen Klopp, and for you guys to think about, is he's very self-deprecating. He never thinks he has all the answers. He surrounds himself by an incredible staff. He's always bringing in people to make him look better and make his program better. It's really important as a leader that we're not top down, that we look around us. All right, maybe the most important coach here, Ted Lasso. So if you haven't watched Apple TV's Ted Lasso, you can Google that. Maybe type that in there, Jim. Just write Apple TV, Ted Lasso. And at the minimum, just watch the trailer for it. And it's a bit of a spoof, as you can imagine, if you don't know about it. He's a fictional coach that came over from Wichita State, won the Division II American Football Championship. And then a fictional team, AFC Richmond, brought him over to England where he coached. And I love the photo because he's making fun of himself. Again, he doesn't want to be the center of attention. He wants to have fun. He wants to encourage his players to work hard for each other. It's a captivating show. It is worth the $4.99. Try out Apple TV if you get a chance. It is really funny, very, very well written. And I love Jason Sudeikis as an actor and a writer anyway. And again, stop and speak up if you ever want to ask anything about any of these slides. Pep Guardiola, currently in Man City, before that Bayern Munich, before that Barcelona, considered one of the greatest coaches of all time. Manchester City back in front now, the Premier League. The greatest thing about Pep is 2 things. One, before this quote, is he's a game model guy. So if you know soccer, and I'm a soccer nerd, I can talk soccer to the end of the day, but he loves the game model. He loves the passing and the intricate triangles and the system, things like that. So he is really in the tactical side of the sport. Very, very bright, very well spoken. like many of these guys, multilingual, can coach different kinds of players in different environments. And that's an important thing as a leader as well. But I love this quote because it underlines that he's a normal person. He's a dad, he's a husband, he's about being a human being. He loves his job, but it's not his life. So are you a leader? Just take a second, all right, and pause. Whether it's yes, no, maybe. Are you perfect, or are you the finished product? Take a second to think about that as well. Hopefully, on that first question, you said, heck yeah, I'm a leader. Because in my opinion, everybody is a leader. And to me, nature versus nurture, you talk about it at the end of the day, but a leader is someone that is excellent. And as a result, sets a model and a standard for others to feed off on. Did I say, are you the best in your company? Are you the best in your club? Are you the best in your team? I didn't ask any of those questions, because it can be the lowest player on the team and he or she can be a leader just by that standard of excellence in doing well. People feed off that. Are you perfect? Are the finished product? Hopefully. You said no, because we're always learning, always learning. I've made so many mistakes in my leadership career, and I continue to make them every day, I'm sure, but they make me better. And that's where resilience comes in. I've had so many coaching hurdles in the past, or leadership hurdles in the past. I'll mention a couple. I mean, these are just 4. I could go through a countless bullet points, and I've always improved along the way, but I still make mistakes. I still have setbacks and stumbles. Off-field influence. Gosh, I can remember so many times when I didn't sleep well, or I drank too much earlier in my career and I wasn't ready for the game. I was distracted. So many things I did that didn't prepare me for the moment. And so you gotta do things off the field that are well. I went for a long run today before this to clear my head so I could really be in this moment with you guys. So whatever it is, think about what else you do away from the field, away from your job that influences you. So you're at your best when your number's called. Internal validation. The great example of this is, and many coaches, if you're on this call, probably done so before, maybe if you've done a meeting before, a PowerPoint, or whatever it is. But I can remember as a coach putting together this brilliant coaching plan that me and the staff spent all this time on, and we're so excited about. And we write it up, and we give the practice session, and then we walk away from the field. And then I go, I thought it was great. I wonder what the players thought about it. Do we ever turn around and ask our players or ask our staff? Is it only about us? In other words, how does it impact other people? That's the most important thing if you're presenting or trying to be a leader. That third bullet point, promoter versus cultivator. One of my mentors, and I hope you have mentors. And if you need a mentor, me or Jim or someone on the call, I strongly encourage it. Everybody should be a mentor, and everybody should be a mentee, in my opinion. You should always have people around you that are making you better and helping you learn. And it's never too late to start that. But one of my mentors is a guy named Jeff Moore. And Jeff Moore has his own leadership consulting group. He won NCAA championships at Texas as the University of Texas women's tennis coach. And he came to Davidson when I was coaching there and gave all these great talks. And he analyzed me, and I kept in touch with him. And he said, Matt, you need to cultivate more and promote less. So it can't just be about the words, all right? It can't just be about what you're telling people. You've got to live that and exhibit that. So whatever your mantras are, your affirmations, make sure you live those things and you show them from the inside out. Win or lose versus culture, process, performance. We can be so outcome-based as soccer programs, as businesses, or whatever we're involved in, that we forget that you can actually play really badly and still win. You can play really well and still lose. You can gain so much from a win as much as you can from a loss. So pro coaches and people that I've been around at the highest level, they focus on culture, process, and performance. Those are the things that are going to lead you to success. And Jim, if I go too fast or you want to jump in, make comments, please do, or ask questions. So leadership qualities, I'll give you a second to read this list because it's hard to listen and read at the same time. So those are qualities that I find vital when I evaluate leaders, when I talk to leaders. And these are things that I am constantly working on that I wasn't really good at when I started. When I was 30, I got the head coach job at Davidson. I was the youngest Division I coach in the country. I had no idea what I was doing. I'd never coached full-time in my life. I had helped a little bit part-time on the side, but I was a sports marketing guy that played at a high level at Davidson and still loved the sport. But I got thrown into a position. Actually, every job I've ever started, I've just been lucky. I've done 90-degree turns every career I've done. And so I've had to kind of start over and use my experiences as I go to start to do new things. So these are qualities that I've tried to work on in my career that I think that are really important for you to think about. As you look at that list, maybe identify 1, 2, or 3 of them that you may do well. Just pause for a second and try to have a picture in your head of maybe when you've done that. Would anybody like to unmute and give an example of one of those qualities maybe they've done well at or seen activated or manifested? Quiet group. It's okay. I work with teams all the time. I have 2 really high level girls and boys teams tonight, and I have to draw them out as well. I work with club teams right now as well. But I would challenge you to think about that slide and where you are in those. And it's very different modern leadership from the old school. It used to be very top down. It used to be do this or else. It used to be my way or the highway. It used to be the leader was the doer all the time. It's not that. Now leaders in this day and age have to be empathetic. They have to be good listeners. They have to be relational. They have to be servants. Otherwise, people are going to look the other way, because millennials and below, they want their leaders to be involved, and they want to be in understanding what's going on in the organization. So I really challenge you to make sure you're thinking bottom up versus top down. All right, player and coach development. We'll shift angles here a little bit, shift corners, and go into a little bit of some soccer stuff. Whether you be a coach or whether you be running a club or organizational leader, some of this is going to be a little more soccer specific, but I think all you guys are involved in soccer in some shape or form, maybe as parents, coaches, what have you. I did the U.S. Soccer A license stuff. I did the United Soccer Premier diploma. I've done all the levels all the way up. And these are all kind of the 4 categories they always talked about: technical skills, tactical awareness, physical athleticism, and a little bit psychological. And I put them in that order. That's how they're listed. All right. And it's coaches. We get so caught up, and I'm no longer a coach. I've just pulled out of the coaching thing the last couple of years. But those first 3 get really a ton of emphasis because they feel like we can control those. We can put together a great skill session to give this guy this awesome technique. We can put together this great practice plan and formation and strategy. There's the tactical side. And then we just drive them, right? Make them run, make them lift, make them work out, all these things. But that last thing there, it gets put aside way, way more than it should. So that quote there, take a second to read that. Are we challenging our athletes? Are we challenging ourselves? Are we challenging the game about how the brain works and how important it is? I've discovered through many years of looking at this game, it matters more than ever. And pandemic related, mental health related, so many factors that we need to go back and focus on the psychological parts of the game. So there's a couple sentences for you to read as well. And this goes with life as well. Sometimes we can get so caught up in X's and O's and to-dos and lists that we forget to slow down and think about how are we feeling? How are we thinking? If you're a leader of your group, I would challenge you to make sure that you check in with people that are underneath you, so to speak, and say, how are you? Step back. Don't say anything. Let them talk. All right. Let them express themselves a little bit. Have some conversations. It's really going to go a long way for your organization and for your relationship. So just real basic sports psychology. If I was given this call, I'd go a lot deeper, and I would have Dr. Brad Miller with me as our 20-year psychologist, former club teammate of mine, ACC champion. I showed you about him on the first slide. We would go really deep in this stuff with you, but I'm going to give you a quick overview. All right. First of all, I look at the brain as a waterfall. Everything comes down from the waterfall. Okay. The brain controls all your thoughts, obviously, but then all your emotions as well. That impacts your mood, that impacts your performance, your motivation, everything. Everything comes down from the brain. All right. And in a situation like a game, it's the brain that matters most, not your skill, because your brain has to be able to do that skill and make that decision. So we need to think top down on the waterfall. All right. And how the belief and thoughts and emotions are connected. Number two, brains have a negative bias. So the brain's number one job, I don't know if you know this is keep you alive. Number one job. So it's looking around for rattlesnakes and crouching tigers and, cars coming across the street to hit you. And all these things it's focused on. Okay. The problem with that, well, not the problem, but the result of that is that scientists have said that about 80% of our thoughts are negative. All right. Because what happens is the brain is so focused on keeping you alive, it then filters down to so many other things. And it's constantly having a negative bias. So it's saying, I can't do that, or I'm going to be embarrassed by that, or I'm a failure at that. Okay. When I talk to youth teams all the time, I always show this slide of US national team players on the bench. And I say, what about their body language? And I say, what do you think they're thinking? They come from an MLS team or Chelsea, wherever they come from, and they're not starting. What are they thinking? What would y'all think? And the players always say, well, I'd say, I think I stink, that I'm a terrible player. That's what they always say. All right. So you see how the brain works. It's always looking for negative situations and excuses. Okay. So we want to shift some things. And one of them is a growth mindset. So if you could just type in Carol Dweck, Jim, it's Dweck. And it's a woman that I completely respect. And she is the maestro, the heroine, if you will, behind the idea of growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. She has a TED Talk, so you can knock it out in 15 minutes, or you can get the book, even better, and actually read her story. There's a great one page. You just Google it and you can print it off. And it was the Bible, small b, that I gave to my Davidson soccer team. It had 2 columns: fixed mindset, growth mindset. And you can imagine what it says about being constructive with your thoughts and always being positive about learning. So an idea here: do you want your players or do you want your staff to do these things? You probably sense they do a lot of this. Just take a second to read those. And they do that a lot, right? I mean, Division I players that I coach, pro players that I helped manage, they do these things all the time. We all do it. Negative self-talk. We get discouraged. We don't perform as well. Winning edge is poison under pressure, right? Got to be able to think about how these things impact your life and your performance. All right. Then read this slide. And that's what we want. We want them to be, always thinking, I'm going down a road and good things are going to happen. Bad things are going to come along the way, but I can get around them. All right. So being optimistic is a really, really important word. Type in John Gordon, if you don't mind, Jim. If you don't know John Gordon, he's the master about optimism and positive thinking. He's got incredible stuff, tons of great books. You guys probably know some of them. The Energy Bus. Oh God, there's so many he's done. I mean, I can't think of all them right now, but great stuff. So take a second to read that from former U.S. Women's National Team and 2-time World Cup champion coach, Jill Ellis. So at the top level, this is finally really getting paid attention to. Another quote for you from Messi. So the very highest level, and you can go into all these other sports. I mean, if you listen to Tom Brady or you listen to Russell Wilson, you listen to these leaders in other sports, it's all up in here. It's all in their mind, because at every level you go up in soccer and sport and life, the skills are pretty much the same. They're very close by. It's this battle we have in our mind and how we can control it and steer it. So soccer resilience, here's our 4 pillars. All right. And there's images there to kind of accentuate. And I'll go through this briefly, and happy to go through it more deeply with you or your organization moving forward. Because working with pro clubs all the way down to youth organizations like clubs and associations. Take control, see the steering wheel there. Okay. I'll talk about that in a second. Develop purpose. That's the next level. Okay. Build perseverance is really critical. And then enhance performance. So backing up a little bit, take control is we actually can steer our minds. It doesn't mean bad stuff doesn't come in, but it does mean that we can accept feelings and thoughts and not judge them. That's the problem that the mind does. It wants to judge everything that happens to us. All right. It wants to explain things, and we go into that negative bias. All right. Develop purpose. When I talk with youth teams, I have 2 teams on tonight later. I'm in North Carolina. I'll talk to some teams tonight here through Zoom. And one of my slides says, why do you play soccer? And like, I don't know. No one's ever asked me that. Isn't that amazing? We don't ask our players why you play. Well, you probably started playing because your mom or dad signed you up when you were a little kid, but now you're an elite player that's training 4 days a week and traveling around the East Coast playing games. So let's talk about your purpose. And I have them give their ideas, and I have a slide that kind of lists them out. And they go like this: love of the game, love of their teammates, want to be a part of something bigger than themselves, want to feel healthy and fit and look good. They enjoy their club. They enjoy travel. They want to play college soccer. All these different reasons kind of start bouncing around. So that's really important that we have purpose. A purpose-driven life makes you, as a result of that, then you can actually have some motivation during the day and get through challenges. It also, what we do with our players is, okay, now you got your purpose of why you play. How does that factor in preparing and transitioning to the training field? Okay, so we have them do affirmations. And how do they channel why they play? So I'll say a player, like you say, you love your teammates. How does that look? How do you visualize that? And I'll do exercise, and eventually they'll get to, okay, I'm going to start writing it down. I help my teammates. So when you write things down, they get sticky. You tell somebody about it. You put it on your phone. You write it and you put it on a sign in your bathroom wall. You put it in your car. All right. So take a moment when you get to the field before you walk out in training. Remember your purpose and how you're going to channel that. All that helps motivation in dealing with setbacks, etc. Perseverance. If you don't mind, Jim, writing this one in. Angela Duckworth, just like it sounds, the word grit. So grit is another way of saying perseverance, which is another way of saying resilience. Love Angela Duckworth. Again, TED Talk, book, things online you can find out about her. Pushing Out Females, Carol Dweck and Angela Duckworth so far. Great book. She had all this study. She's a professor. She's a writer. She's a TED talker. All this study, all these different successful groups. And she came down, said there's one thing, it's the most important life skill: grit, perseverance, resilience, whatever you want to call it. That is the most important quality. And unfortunately, it's getting short look by a lot of parents, and I'm a parent, I got 3 sons, and also by coaches, that we need to build perseverance. It is the #1 life skill in terms of fulfillment, happiness, success. And then all this stuff should help you become a better player and do well. So backing up to take control. Take a second to read that. So we all take breathing for granted, and breathing is the piece that connects your mind and your body, and some would say your soul. All right, you got to breathe to stay alive, but it does a lot more than that. And what do we do when we get stressed or angry? We breathe faster. We start sweating. We can't control. We're getting, our legs get heavy. All right, we get nervous. All of these things. So if you don't meditate, just consider it. I do. If you want to hear that did it, Kobe Bryant did it every single day. Many pro athletes do. Many great leaders do. All meditation is taking some time to take deep breaths. That's all it is. You can do more with it. There's so many things you can take from there. You can add yoga into it if you want to. If you don't mind typing this in, Jim, just write in Netflix, Headspace. So Headspace, along with Calm, are 2 of the biggest apps right now that have like literally like $1 billion IPO kind of stuff, because they're so important right now. But Headspace did a really cool series with Netflix. Some of you guys probably have Netflix, and I do it with my 13-year-old son. They're 20-minute segments, and Andy, who's the co-founder of Headspace, does it's all animated and fun to watch. It's really easy, got a good flow to it. You can do it with your family, your kids. It's just very basic meditation. But I would encourage you to consider it. It's the best way to kind of slow your thoughts down, get yourself centered. It even helps when you're kind of trying to fall asleep. Just like you're thinking about negative things or things bouncing around your head because our mind's always racing. All right, just slow down and take really deep breaths. I get ready to start working with a pro soccer team and pro soccer players, and we will do meditation. And I know they're going to love it if they haven't done it before, because they're under a lot of pressure, and it'll get them just to be centered and slow down. So read that. Just another thing about breathing. It's great to do if you got road rage, you're getting crazy in the car, you want to get somewhere really fast, and someone's behind you. Just take a deep breath. That's their stress. Don't let them pass it on to you. Just slow down and take some deep breaths. The good thing also, read that slide. I won't talk over it. So when we talk about mindfulness in the first pillar of soccer results, which is take control. So we're trying to get more mindful, and the breathing has to do with that. That also helps, a really important piece, positive self-talk and visualization. So when I would coach at Davidson in our pregame meal, I would have the guys, we finish our meal. All right, guys, we're gonna do a 3-4 minute meditation. And I just have them close their eyes, get comfortable, get quiet, focus on their breathing. And then I would walk them through a visualization exercise. And basically, I was just winging it. I was just basically just saying, all right, what's the day like? What's the night like? You have things coming into your head, let that go. What's your focus? Do your visualization. What image are you going through in your head? Is it a goalkeeper coming out and being strong, making the catch? Is it center back, communicating to his outside fullback? Is it center mid spraying a long pass? Is it a winger making a big tackle? So I have players visualize that. Same thing, you can do that. Visualize success. And then what happens is your brain is a muscle. It's very malleable, not just stuff we put in it like words and reading things like that, but also rhythms, all right? Called neural pathways. And the more you visualize yourself doing the right thing, it has been proven by psychologists and doctors, you're more apt to do those things. Really, really important that you visualize success. So if you're a coach, you're a parent, and you hear someone being negative, say, hey, let's step away from that image. All right, I recognize that, honor that. Let's envision you doing that well. What does that look like? All right, so they go back to that movie in their head. That's the way you want to tell yourself success. So take a second to read that quote. Just a few more slides, guys, hang in there. So I love that quote for 2 reasons. One, it kind of goes with the second and third pillars of soccer resilience as we're getting from purpose to perseverance. In Mia Hamm, greatest of all time, in my opinion. I was fortunate enough, if you're anywhere near my age, I was fortunate enough to be at the 1999 Women's World Cup final in Pasadena in the Rose Bowl with 90,000 people, 90,000 for a soccer game, for a women's soccer game. It was an iconic moment of American sports. Me and Brandy Chastain and Brianna Scurry in goal, and Christine Lilly and Julie Foudy and Michelle Akers. I probably named the whole starting lineup. I remember that game so well. And Brandy Chastain hitting that penalty kick, tearing off her shirt, and you had the whole sports bra moment that went right on Sports Illustrated and put soccer on the map on the women's game. But I love the quote that failure happens all the time. We need to train our athletes and train each other to understand that mistakes happen. You watch a game, Jim, maybe pick, your son's favorite player and watch a pro game. Let's count how many mistakes that player makes. You'd be shocked. Players at the highest level. There's no perfect player. There's no perfect day. We need to recognize the mistakes are just part of life. It's okay. It's not something we should dread or necessarily break us down. So a quote there from Josie, longtime U.S. national team World Cup guy. So again, another example of a pro athlete coming to this thing about mental game, mindset, mental strength. I call it mental fitness. I don't like the word about being mentally tough. We're trying to get away from the word tough. I know the idea of being a man is being tough and physically tough. I like the word confident, competitive, but I don't like the word tough because we need to understand that sometimes you don't have to always be tough. All right, thinking about COVID a little bit, take a look at that slide. And the pandemic and what we've been through. The last 2 or 3 slides here. So what a year. If I had more time, we'd have conversations about what was challenging to you in the pandemic and continues to be so challenging in an incredibly unique, unprecedented year that's affected the entire globe. It's not like it's a Arkansas thing, a North Carolina thing, a soccer thing. It's the entire globe has had an impact of this. And there's a lot of things that we can do together to try to get through it. I talk to my athletes all the time, like, you got through it. That's great. You showed perseverance. What did you learn from it? What was different about that? How do you reflect on that? Were there any good things that came from it? I always ask my athletes, what was good from it? And they say, I started to fish, or I started to bike more, or I started to be around my parents more, or I got closer to, whomever. It doesn't really matter. But there's actually good things that can come from tough situations. So maybe have that moment of reflection with your family, with your team, with your organization. So one thing, this is a John Gordon thing, you may have heard this before, but there's this theory that you can create one word. Sometimes we get overcomplicate things. So I just threw, 27 slides at you so far, I think, and all these words and ideas and phrases, etc. A lot. Sorry, that was too much. So let's simplify it. Can you think about, you can share it if you want to, I won't put you on the spot because we don't know each other yet that well, maybe. But think of one word for 2021. It's been proven that if you simplify it down to one word, it can be really helpful. And I'll just share mine. My word is love. And it's not from the romantic sense. It's more of internal self-love, to take care of myself through a tough time and a tough year. And I've been through some hard things this past year, like everybody has. It's really been hard. But if I take care of myself and I show love to myself, then externally, I can be that father, I can be that coach, I can be that business partner, I can be that friend that I can really help. All right. And the word love to me is it's contrary to some things, unfortunately, we still see of hatred, etc. Maybe think about one word. Wells Thompson, one of my partners in Soccer Resilience, his is courage. One of our other partners is mission. One of the other ones, Dr. Brad Miller, is present. Think of one word. It can be a great thing. We have our athletes, when we work with teams and clubs, both pro and college and youth, we actually have them do the exercise. If we have more time, I put you on the spot, where they actually have to give a word and think about how they're going to activate it. You can also do it with your family. The thing is, you have one word for your family. That's a really good way to be able to combine and connect, or one word with your organization or your team. The other good thing is if you share your one word, like I'm telling you guys, all right, and then I'm telling other people, it makes me more responsible to it. It makes me more conscious of it, that I'm actually going to activate it. And so it can get sticky in the brain, and people are going to, hey, Jim Walker, maybe text you tomorrow. Hey, I remember your one word. How's it going with love? So we can share these things, and it's really, really helpful. Last couple slides, and I'll have questions, hopefully, if you have some ideas and things you want to ask about. So Jessica McDonald, as I mentioned, is one of our newest partners. She's an equal partner. We added her 2 weeks ago. We really wanted to do our part, Soccer Resilience, to empower women and empower persons of color. And we couldn't have picked a better person to do that in Jessica McDonald. You can read a little bit about her right there. She's got a team talk coming up. It's on our website, soccerresilience.com. If you want to hold your phone up to that QR code, doesn't mean you're paying for it. It just gives you the link. So if you want to hold your phone up, you can get the link straight to the page on our website. She is a remarkable story. Came from very modest, honestly, very, very tough upbringing, essentially raised by her grandmother, had some serious parent issues. She's very open about. She committed to Carolina, all excited about it, and her SAT score was a little bit low. Had to go to junior college for 2 years, played 3 sports there, soccer, basketball, and ran track. Also trained every day she could with the men's team at the junior college. She transferred to Carolina, 2 NCAA championships, then went pro. When she went pro, she played for 5 teams in her first 6 years, traded constantly. And in her first pro start, she destroyed her knee. The doctor said she'd never come back from that injury. 18 months later, she came back and has had a great career since then. Came on to the national team late in her career. Most people come through the youth ranks and move all the way up. She didn't make the national team until right before the 2019 World Cup, and is a World Cup champion. So incredible story. Recommend you consider it. It's something that I think you and your family, your teams, et cetera, would really enjoy. Last slide, I want to make sure you have my email address. I want to be a resource for you in any shape or form, as someone you can talk with, you can talk to, somebody you can share with. So my email address is right there. Soccerresilience.com is our website. We're on all of the social media channels. So you can find us on Facebook, LinkedIn, on YouTube. It's actually pretty good. We already have 25 videos put in there, and they're by myself and Jessica and Wells and Brad about various tips. They're all short. They're all 5 minutes or less. And they're all about confidence and soccer resilience and well-being and helping you be a better leader. They're for all ages as well. So you can check that out. Instagram, Twitter as well. And then another example, if you want to hold your phone up for this QR code, this gets you to our weekly message of resilience, which is an email that goes out Monday morning with some really, really good links and videos, articles that we gather together that we're reading as a staff. And we like to try to pick the best of the best. And then we put them in this newsletter with a video message as well. So if you want to get that First Touch weekly message of resilience, you can use the QR code there. Before I pause for questions, I'm actually going to give this talk again on the Soccer Resilience website in 2 weeks. I'm going to write this down, Jim. It's going to be 7 p.m. Eastern, Sunday, February 14th. Yes, I know it's Valentine's Day, but 7 p.m. Eastern. If you have staff or people you work with or coaches or teams that want to hear this talk again, I'll probably tweak it a little bit because I actually want to get some feedback from Jim and others. But I'm going to give that talk again, and it'll be free through our website. You do have to register, but it'll be free in the soccerresilience.com website. All right. I just talked way longer by myself than I usually do. Do you guys have any thoughts, questions that you want to bring up?
Matt, I'll jump in here. You mentioned it with that the Altidore slide there, that it took him time before he realized he could train his mind. What age group would you say that most of this would be beneficial for? All age groups? Do we, for lack of a better phrase, dumb it down for the younger kids and then build it up as they get older and are able to intellectually grasp it better?
Yeah, I really think all ages, Jim, and those pillars that I've showed you are going to be consistent with all age groups that we work with. And so we're a startup. We started this winter. Our first big partner is Charlotte Independent Soccer Club here in North Carolina, where I am. I'm in Charlotte. They're a big club. They're 12,000 players. I think it might be more registered players than you have in your group there. But they're a big club. They have a USL Pro team on top of them. What we do for them, Jim, is we go down to the under 13s and up to the U19s. And what we're doing is we do 4 webinars with their, they pick the top 30 boys and girls teams, all the ECNL kind of level National League stuff. And we go through with the team, and the coach usually sits in. It's optional for the coach. So I have the under 19 and under 17 boys tonight that I'll do a 45-minute session with. Brad Miller, Dr. Brad Miller will be on with me for this one. It's our third presentation. I do 3 and 4. Brad and Wells do 1 and 2. And then on the fourth and final one, Wells Thompson, MLS Cup winner, he jumps on with me. So we go all the way down to U13. And in some of these same slides, I chose some of the slides from our presentations, but I also added some more specific to leadership and adults. But honestly, I mean, the U13 boys and girls that I talk to, they're so interactive. They crave it, and they want someone to listen. I mean, I could throw a slide in here, guys, and I'm sure you're reading the same news as me, to talk about the hurdles that are going on in mental health in our country right now. I'll just give you one. A Gallup poll recently said Americans are more, our mental health is worse than in the last 20 years. Every metric is up on mental health issues. 1 out of 3 teenagers have anxiety issues. 1 out of 4 have severe depression. And these are all escalating up with COVID. Even at the college level, NCAA has reported that mental health issues and visits to student health offices and on campuses are up 200%. It can be very helpless and hopeless very quickly. And so we're not focusing on those kind of issues per se, but the messaging that we give has people understand how the brain works, how to calm themselves down. So not just become a better soccer player, but handling stress, handling anxiety, realizing it's okay to not be perfect. And we give tools and strategies. So to answer your question, Jim, I mean, it can go down to U13s. And we're getting ready to announce a couple other clubs we'll be working with, a couple other associations, state associations, ODP. So we'll be working at different levels on the youth side. We just announced yesterday that we signed with a pro agency called First Wave Sports. And so we'll be doing these same talks that I do with the youth teams for their pros. I mean, 35 to 40 pros in MLS, USL level, talk about all these things, all these same topics.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Let's see. Kay, who happens to be executive director over in Mississippi, is on with us. And she asked if you could go back to the Jessica McDonald slide.
Yeah. There you go.
And just so you know, I've shared all of these webinars we've been doing this week, Matt, with all of my South Region executive directors. So yeah. I won't be surprised if you hear from Kay or from any of the others in this area.
Yeah. So this is something that we're doing with our partner, Charlotte Independence, and they're going to have people on there as well, but it's open to anybody. We also, Jessica can do one-off conversations and one-off presentations to particular clubs, club specific. So some clubs, what they'll do is they'll do a Zoom with their whole club or their whole girls side. I think boys can learn as much from Jessica as girls do. Honestly, in my opinion, her story is that compelling. But some clubs or some teams, so she can do, Zoom sessions as well. So we do everything from, it's all Zoom related right now, but we do everything from, just these kind of talks, these kind of one-offs, to more extensive, series of webinars and team talks that we call. We do offer as well one-on-one coaching, which I do as well with some athletes and some executives all the way down to coaches and below. But a lot of our stuff with Soccer Resilience is group related.
Excellent. This is great stuff. Other questions from anybody? You can always type it in the chat room or raise your hand or just unmute and ask away.
Hey, Matt, my name is Gene Joyce. I'm in Texarkana, Texas. I really enjoyed your presentation today. I guess the one thing that stuck out to me with talking about the psychological part of the game is that I think the United States Soccer Federation is starting to spend some time trying to address that. I finished my D license about a year and a half ago, or a year ago, right when the new one came out. And with all the talk of managing the performance environment and everything else, like, from coaching the player to coaching the individual to everything, I think that you're right on track, and that United States Soccer Federation is seeing the same thing. So I enjoyed your presentation, and thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, grateful, Gene, for talking up, and I'm glad that you did the D license. And yes, U.S. Soccer, we have some folks there that are considering bringing us on to do some training, a little more globally for their folks and beyond. But it's so important, as you said, Gene. And I think the education of a coach and of a leader needs to expand a little bit, deepen a little bit. It's been a little bit too X's and O's, as I said before. And we need to focus on things like empathy and listening and relational aspects. It's really, really important with people, particularly, as we said, going through an unparalleled pandemic.
Well, thanks again. I appreciate it very much.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Other questions, comments, anybody?
Well, Jim, I'll close it down and just say I'm really grateful for you for asking me to do it. And I'll use that word grateful with gratitude. I always in my sessions about gratitude, and I always talk to my athletes and coaches and leaders about gratitude. And it's been proven by scientists, psychologists, that the act of gratitude, which is being thankful and really thinking about the good things in your life, the blessings or whatever you want to call it, is really empowering. So for example, there's lots of activities that you can actually practice gratitude. You can have a gratitude list that you write down in the morning before you go to bed. Some people pray. Some people at the dinner table go around the room and talk about what they're thankful for. Some people will shoot a text to a friend, just say, hey, I'm thinking about you. Just leave it at that. That's a great way. Some people write handwritten notes. And not only are they helping people that you're being grateful to, they're really good for you too. because they give you value, and the people that you're giving gratitude for are going to pay it forward. So last thing I always say is I'm grateful, and I wish you guys the best. My email's, mattspirit@soccerresilience.com. I'm here for you guys in any shape or form. You want to talk or want us to work with you and your club or your organization, please reach out.
Perfect. Wonderful. Thanks so much, Matt. I'll leave you with one thing. My one word, I'm going to go with improve.
Yes.
Which I'm going to just leave that as it's amorphous enough. It's improve myself, as a husband, as a dad, as a coach, as a executive director, improve the world. It's pretty much anything. So that's going to be my word you've motivated me to run with. And I'm announcing it to all you guys here on this conversation so that I will have ownership and responsibility of continuing to make sure I do that.
I love
so
it.
Thank you, man. This has been awesome. It is great to see you, my friend. Great to hear how everything is going with you. This looks fantastic. Really appreciate you taking the time to share this with all of us. And again, one last shout out to North Little Rock CVB for their sponsorship of this, making all this possible. But I really do think this is great value. I have got it recorded. We will get it up on the website, and that way, Matt, if you need access to anything, just feel free to tap into it. And again, I can't thank you enough for doing this for us.
Awesome. Happy to help, guys. Thanks for all you do for the sport there. Have a good day.
Take care, everybody.